Okay, boys and girls, today is Sunday, June the 28th, 2015. It's a beautiful day. Just the occasional little cotton ball of a cloud in the sky. Temperatures around 80-ish, low 80s. And we have something special. I am riding a 1991 Suzuki GSX1100G. I ran across this bike last Friday, the 26th of June. A friend of mine sent me a message and said there was one, because he knew I like these things. Said there was one on Craigslist, and so I checked it out, and there's a 24-year-old motorcycle, clean as a pin, with 4,808 miles on it. That's right, less than 5,000 miles. So I went to the credit union and withdrew some cash. Went to see the man and took the wife with me, and I have to say the bike was everything he said it was. And so I paid him and rode this thing home. We had some really violent thunderstorms come through Friday night, and I had to ride this thing back in the rain. And there was 2 or 3 times that lightning crashed, and then the thunder was immediate, so it was very close. And it gave me a good scare. But I just had to get it home. Now, if you're not familiar with the big 1100G, let me tell you about it. Suzuki imported this bike to the United States for only 3 years. I think 91, 92, and 93. This one was the first year, 91 model. And it's an inline 4. It's air and oil cooled. It does not have liquid cooling, which liquid cooling is great, but it's also nice to not have it because it's just simpler. It's one less thing you have to maintain. And like I say, this one is oil cooled, so it runs pretty cool. The main thing about this bike, though, is that it is shaft driven. It's one of the last inline 4-cylinder shaft driven bikes from Japan that is not a touring bike or a sport touring bike. Suzuki used to make some really great inline 4-cylinder shaft-driven bikes back in the late 70s, early 80s, and then they quit making them, and people wanted them to bring them back, myself included. So they eventually came out with this bike, and I bought one. I bought a leftover 93 model. I bought it in 1995, and it was a great bike. I got tired of it, though, after about 4 years, and I traded it for a Kawasaki Concours, a 99 model, which was also a great bike. But I always kind of missed the G-bike, which is how I refer to these things, as the G-bike, because it's called a GSX1100G. And I always liked the inline 4-cylinder shaft-driven Suzukis. When I was in the Army out in Colorado in 1982, 1983 time frame, I had a 1982 Suzuki GSX1100G, and I just went all over the place on that thing and just loved it. And I kept it up until about the time I got married. I decided that, I'm getting married, I need to outgrow motorcycles, I need to leave it behind. Raise a family, all that kind of stuff. So I sold it, used the money to buy an engagement ring, which I don't regret buying the engagement ring or selling it. Well, I wish I had been able to keep that bike, but wasn't in the cards. So anyway, when I got a chance to get another 4-cylinder Suzuki, I jumped on it. And like I say, I went over and looked at this one, and it was just clean as a pin. Very, very nice. Runs like a brand new motorcycle. So I bought it and brought it home in the rain. And today I'm going to go and meet a friend of mine. He's a younger guy. He doesn't really have any experience with these things. So he'll be nice about it, I'm sure. But I don't think he won't understand so much why I like it. Not his style, but that's okay. It's my style, and that's why I bought it. And it really just, this bike is really me. It's a, how do I say this? It's a unique bike, and I have a unique taste in motorcycles. Not so much that I'm unique, but my taste in motorcycles tends to run towards the odd side. And this is an odd bike, I'll admit that. It's very smooth, very powerful. I mean, you just give it a little gas and it just launches. One I had before, I rode it to Canada and did a little loop up through Canada and Toronto and went through Niagara Falls and all that. Came back into the States at Detroit. I rode it to the mountains a few times, and I rode it to Washington, D.C. Back in mid to late 90s, the Christian Motorcyclists Association had a event, and it was Promise Keepers. It was a Promise Keepers event, and the CMA supported it. It's called Stand in the Gap in Washington, D.C. And I went to that on that bike, and there were a bunch of us on motorcycles. I had a windshield on that one. I don't have a windshield on this one. And you do sit up on this thing. It's got a very high handlebar, as you can see. And it's a 1-inch handlebar. You got big, thick grips, which I like. I got big, thick hands, like big, thick grips, I guess. The bars are kind of high and forward. I'm sorry, the pegs are kind of high and forward. Which I've been riding a V-Strom, a DL650 V-Strom, which is kind of an adventure touring bike for those of you that aren't familiar with motorcycles. It's also very relaxed ergonomically, but it gives you a lot more legroom than this bike gives you. So the legroom on this one is kind of taking some getting used to. But it's got some bars, some aftermarket tip-over bars around the engine cages down there that I'm hoping to find like some little footboard kind of things that I can put on it. I had on my GSX1100G, something like that, and that would let me put my feet up so I can move my legs around some. Excuse me. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about a windshield. I'm wanting to keep this bike cherry as much as possible, but I'm enjoying riding it so much. It's addictive. That power, that smooth 4-cylinder engine is just addictive. I don't know if you can hear it or not. It's kind of humming along down there. Nice exhaust note. It's just purring. It sounds like a sports car. like I say, the throttle is pretty instantaneous. Much stronger than my DL650. The biggest shortcoming to these bikes is the McCuney carburetors, in my opinion, which you know, I'm getting some excellent fueling here. It's doing a good job, but these carburetors are known to need repair fairly frequently. So I'll just have to cross that bridge when I get to it, I guess. I've never taken apart a set of carburetors, but I guess I will. I just need to learn the black art of carburetors.